Welcome and thank you, everyone. My name's Tony, and you're tuned into You Monkey's Uncle. Isn't this a great picture? I found this a while back, and I thought it appropriate that I use it today in light of where I'm going to be taking this discussion in a few minutes. But before I do that, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be circling back really quickly. I know I did the video on masks, the science of masks, or rather the lack of science on masks just the other day. But things have come across my desk which are so forceful, make such a big impact on what I've been saying and what I believe that I thought it necessary that I share with you right away before we start moving on to other topics. Now, I'm telling you, what I'm going to show you today not only reinforces what I believe, what I've been telling you, but it also adds a lot of credence and credibility to my argument. Nonetheless, I guess the first thing that I want to go back to is the last discussion we had was on masks, all right? The lack of science on masks. And wouldn't you know it, no sooner than I published the video, I come across news articles that Theresa Tam, let's just go here. Now, Theresa Tam is Canada's chief public health officer. All right. So I got to show. This just to me is phenomenal. So Tuesday, which is today. Today is a Saturday. So just a couple days ago, Tuesday, the nation's chief public health officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, publicized a recommendation from the Public Health Agency of Canada for members of the public to wear non-medical masks comprised of 2 layers of tightly woven fabric, such as cotton or linen, plus a 3rd layer of a filtered type fabric, such as propylene. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our chief public health officer. And just now, a year into this pandemic, they're telling us that you should be doubling and tripling up. Are they for real? Where's this coming from? Like, she goes on to say, Tam said Tuesday, face coverings are an area of evolving science. This to me is unfathomable. And you know what? What's next? What's next? You're going to be, let's see, you're going to double mask. You're going to put on a shield. Maybe you should, next thing you know, you should wear a diaper. Maybe a baby bonnet, you know, because something to cover every orifice of your body, you know, the shield for your eyes, because you never know. You know what, if you're one of those people that are believing and are going to start doing everything they're telling you, I got one thing to say to you. Yeah, that's a triple. That's a triple for you guys out there. I'm telling you, I told you the other day, there was no science. And now we're being told by our chief public health officer that the science is evolving. You know, this is unbelievable. This article I found from Time, you can see about halfway down the page here, they're talking about the COVID-19 pandemic and the need for community face masks has raised questions about whether you can just throw a scarf over your face or whether you should use a better designed cloth mask, says Raina McIntyre, professor of global biosecurity at the University of New South Wales, Sydney, and one of the study's authors. You know, what was the final result of this study? Okay, listen to this, all right? The result, the surgical mask did the best job overall. So what they did is they compared a surgical mask to things like a scarf or regular face coverings that they've been telling you to do, all right? And their result, I wonder how much this experiment or this study cost them. That surgical mask did the best job overall, but the 2-layer CDC mask was still significantly better at containing droplets than the single-layer covering. Duh, you think? It takes a study to figure this stuff out? Come on, folks, come on. Start being more attentive to what you're being told. Start asking the tough questions. Do not take things for granted. You know, I'd have more respect for these people if they just simply came out at the very beginning and say, look, we don't have all the answers. We're not 100% sure if this is going to work or it's not going to work, but let's try it. Try it and we'll see what happens. But no, they don't come and tell you that they're the professionals. They're the professionals that are flip-flopping, like I said in the last video, like fish out of water. And you, like I said it before, masks are a sign of compliance and obedience. They're just seeing how far they can push you right now until they really start pushing the true agenda onto you. All right. So don't let these people make a monkey out of you. Okay. Don't be a That's right. Don't be a little sheep that just goes along, follows the herd. Now, enough said about that. Let's start steering this conversation to where I really want to go with it today. If you recall, back in the first video, I talked about isolation and quarantine camps and what the proposed government was looking to do. Well, back in that first video on isolation camps, I shared a leaked email from apparently the Liberal Party of Canada. Somebody that there was this big agenda apparently being implemented or being put into place, all right? And that leaked email, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, was Saturday, October the 10th, 2020, all right? Now, I want to show you something else here. I didn't know about that on October the 10th, 2020, but I did end up getting a friend who sent me this on October the 16th. And basically, it was the email. I got it via WhatsApp. And that was, the dates here are very important because I got that on October the 16th. And what makes that very important is because we discussed a lot of things in that first video. Besides the isolation camps and proposed isolation camps and quarantine camps, we discussed the lockdown restrictions that are coming into play, how the COVID-19 is going to surge. And so there's going to be enhanced lockdowns. You know, we talked about how this plan is going to ask or going to look to transition individuals into a basic universal income program, which is going to be administered by the International Monetary Fund, blah, 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 blah. You can go back to the video. I'm not going to waste your time on all of that at this time. But shortly after that, what happens is that there's news articles that come out specifically to try and debunk basically what I'm telling you, all right? And what more people are starting to believe and look into, thanks to people like you sharing what I'm telling you, all right? This thing, the cat is slowly coming out of the bag. We're slowly exposing this conspiracy? Maybe, I don't know. All right, but here we have from the CBC, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was asked, Mr. Prime Minister, are you preparing to put us in internment camps? And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that he had to personally reassure a young woman during a recent virtual meeting that his government will not remove people from their homes to put them in containment facilities. He said he told her that she should turn to public health officials for accurate information on the pandemic. Excuse me? Turn to public health officials, like maybe Dr. Theresa Tam, who's telling us to wear masks months ago. She's the leader in this. Now she's telling us that we should have been doubling and maybe tripling down to get that type of advice. That's who Justin Trudeau is forwarding us to. He's not answering the question, all right? As a matter of fact, he's avoiding the question. And if you look at another article, now this one here was from Toronto.com, all right? And he said, Justin Trudeau again, on October the 20th, Justin Trudeau said he recently had to address this issue while speaking to a group of students after one asked him about COVID-19 internment camps. Now, let me tell you, Justin Trudeau is part of the plan. Let's face it, he's one of the puppets. He's one of the monkeys that's playing to the accordion player, all right? But again, look at his answer. Read into his answer. First of all, what students is he talking? Is he talking to grade school? Is he talking high school? Is he talking to university? Who's he talking to? He said he had to address this with students. Very generic, very broad, all right? And look at his answer. I had to explain that we consume increasing amounts and various sources of information online and around us. We need to continue to be attentive to sources, all right? Keep that in mind, folks. Be attentive to your sources. We need to continue to be attentive about comparing various reports and looking for a trusted source, Trudeau said. Would you consider Trudeau a trusted source at this point? After the scandals he's been through in the last couple of years since his re-election? He added that there has been a rise in misinformation and disinformation in recent years, which takes me to where I want to take you. And the reason I bring all this up, ladies and gentlemen, is because, as I mentioned, that leaked email was dated October the 10th from somebody within the Liberal Party of Canada, supposedly. I received a copy or reference to it October the 16th, all right? Now, you won't believe I didn't find it. It was actually sent to me, and thank you very much, Manola, for pointing that out to me. I don't know how I never saw that, but I'm glad that you brought it to my attention. I want to take you to this letter that was written by the Archbishop of, let me see here. Sorry, Archbishop Vigano. All right. Now, in case you're wondering who Archbishop Vigano is, Archbishop Vigano is the former apostolic nuncio to the United States of America. Let me just get his letter up here. All right. Okay. A nuncio, for those of you that don't know, is a diplomat that represents the Holy See, the Vatican. All right. So he was the apostolic diplomat representing the Vatican to the United States, all right? He is also the Archbishop of Ulpiana right now. Now, again, dates are very important. And as I've alluded to in this conversation, your sources are very important. I'd say that Archbishop Vigano would be a very credible, trusted source, all right? And he penned this letter to the President of the United States. It was an open letter to the President of the United States, Sunday, October the 25th, 2020. Now, I'm going to go through it briefly with you here because I think it's important that you hear what the Archbishop had to tell the President, was wanting to say to the President. So excuse me for reading it to you. I'm only going to read portions of it, but this whole letter emphasizes, as I said at the beginning of this broadcast, not only emphasizes, but reinforces and adds credence and credibility to what I've been telling you, especially in that first video that I put out, all right? So, Mr. President, allow me to address you at this hour in which the fate of the whole world is being threatened by a global conspiracy against God and humanity. I write to you as an archbishop, as a successor of the apostles, as the former apostolic nuncio to the United States of America. I am writing to you in the midst of the silence of both civil and religious authorities. May you accept these words of mine as the voice of one crying out in the desert. Gives me goosebumps already. As I said when I wrote my letter to you in June, this historical moment sees the forces of evil aligned in a battle without quarter against the forces of good. Forces of evil that appear powerful and organized as they oppose the children of light, who are disoriented and disorganized, abandoned by their temporal and spiritual leaders. Daily, we sense the attacks multiplying of those who want to destroy the very basis of society, the natural family, respect for human life, love of country, freedom of education and business. We see heads of nations and religious leaders pandering to the suicide of Western culture and its Christian soul, while the fundamental rights of citizens and believers are denied in the name of a healthy emergency that is revealing itself more and more fully as instrumental to the establishment of an inhuman, faceless tyranny. A global plan called the Reset is underway. Its architect is a global elite that wants to subdue all of humanity, imposing coercive measures with which to drastically limit individual freedoms and those of entire populations. In several nations, this plan has already been approved and financed. In others, it is still at an early stage. Behind the world leaders who are the accomplices and executors of this infernal project, there are unscrupulous characters who finance the World Economic Forum and Event 201 promoting their agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to get off the letter here for a second, but when does a coincidence stop being a coincidence? The Archbishop wrote this letter October 25th. Are you trying to tell me that he plagiarized a leaked email from somebody from the Liberal Party of Canada? I doubt it. When does a coincidence stop being a coincidence? Start paying attention. Wake up, smell the coffee. Let's get back to the letter. The purpose of the Great Reset is the imposition of a health dictatorship aimed at the imposition of liberticidal measures, hidden behind tempting promises of ensuring a universal income and canceling individual debt. The price of these concessions from the International Monetary Fund will be the renunciation of private property and adherence to a program of vaccination against COVID-19 and COVID-21 promoted by Bill Gates with the collaboration of the main pharmaceutical groups. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, all of that I discussed in my first video. I brought it to your attention. And I brought it to your attention, not even with a source as credible as this one, with a leaked email. Where does a leaked email come from? 10 days before an archbishop, a person of this stature and this power, comes up and writes an open letter to the President of the United States. Back to the letter. Beyond the enormous economic interests that motivate the promoters of the Great Reset, the imposition of the vaccination will be accompanied by the requirement of a health passport and digital ID, with the consequent contact tracing of the population of the entire world. Those who do not accept these measures will be confined in detention camps or placed under house arrest, and all their assets will be confiscated. Ladies and gentlemen, I remind you again, what did Justin Trudeau just say? I just showed you. He said, trust your source, be careful who your sources are. Now, are you going to rather take the word of an archbishop or of Justin Trudeau, a man who's been mired in scandal, a man that flip-flops, a man that tries to please everybody everywhere he goes? Back to the letter. Mr. President, I imagine that you are already aware that in some countries, the Great Reset will be activated between the end of this year and the first trimester of 2021. Oh my God, everything we talked about, everything that was in that email. All right. I'm sure he didn't copy that from a leaked, I'm sure the Archbishop didn't base this letter on a leaked email from the Liberal Party of Canada. For this purpose, further lockdowns are planned, which will be officially justified by a supposed second and third wave of the pandemic. You are well aware of the means that have been deployed to sow panic and legitimize draconian limitations on individual liberties, artfully provoking a worldwide economic crisis. In the intentions of its architects, this crisis will serve to make the recourse of nations to the Great Reset irreversible, thereby giving the final blow to a world whose existence and very memory they want to completely cancel. Again, off the letter a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, have you started reading 1984 by George Orwell yet? Do it. All right. Let's just go down a page here. We'll continue with this next paragraph. Many people, as we well know, are annoyed by this reference to the clash between good and evil and the use of apocalyptic overtones, which according to them exasperates spirits and sharpens the visions. It is not surprising that the enemy is angered at being discovered just when he believes he has reached the citadel he seeks to conquer undisturbed. What is surprising, however, is that there is no one to sound the alarm. Yeah, because you know why, folks? Because most of us have fallen into the bah trap. All right? You just do what you're told. The reaction of the deep state to those who denounce its plan is broken and incoherent, but understandable. Just when the complicity of the mainstream media has succeeded in making the transition to the new world order almost painless and unnoticed, all sorts of deceptions, scandals, and crimes are coming to light. Until a few months ago, it was easy to smear as conspiracy theorists those who denounce these terrible plans, which we now see being carried out down to the smallest detail. No one up until last February would have thought that in all of our cities, citizens would be arrested simply for wanting to walk down the street, to breathe, to want to keep their businesses open, to want to go to church on Sunday. But yet that's what's happening, isn't it, folks? Yet now it is happening all over the world, even in picture postcard Italy that many Americans consider to be a small, enchanted country with its ancient monuments, its churches, its charming cities, its characteristic villages. And while the politicians are barricaded inside their palaces, promulgating decrees like Persian satraps, businesses are failing, shops are closing, and people are prevented from living, traveling, working, praying, spending time with their families. A wedge is being driven between us, and you don't even see it coming. Sorry, back to the letter. The disastrous psychological consequences of this operation are already being seen, beginning with the suicides of desperate entrepreneurs and of our children segregated from friends and classmates, told to follow their classes while sitting at home alone in front of a computer. In sacred scripture, the Archbishop goes on to say, St. Paul speaks to us of the one who opposes the manifestation of the mystery of iniquity, the kathekon. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll just stop there for a second. Translated kathekon is it's a duty. It's kathekon. It's a role in life that you have to perform with the utmost excellence. You are predestined for this. Nature has chosen you to fulfill this particular role, your destiny. That's what a kathekon is. So again, in sacred scripture, St. Paul speaks to us of the one who opposes the manifestation of the mystery of iniquity, the kathekon. In the religious sphere, this obstacle to evil is the church, and in particular, the papacy. In the political sphere, it is those who impede the establishment of the new world order. Those are your kathekons. Now, this is important. Oh my God, I got goosebumps just knowing I'm coming to it. All right. As is now clear. All right. This is a prince of the church, ladies and gentlemen. As is now clear. And I might add, do your research on Archbishop Vigano. Impeachable character. Ladies and gentlemen, impeachable. All right. As is now clear, the one who occupies the chair of Peter has betrayed his role from the very beginning in order to defend and promote the globalist ideology, supporting the agenda of the deep church who chose him from its ranks. Ladies and gentlemen, he's referring to the Pope. He is actually denouncing the Pope. What goulions on this man? You know, now that's a man of intestinal fortitude, calling it the way he sees it. Still a conspiracy theory, ladies and gentlemen? my friends out there, yeah, maybe I'm a kook. So what? But I'd rather stay ahead of this than get caught behind it. Mr. President, you have clearly stated that you want to defend the nation, one nation under God, fundamental liberties and non-negotiable values that are denied and fought against today. It is you, dear President, who are the one who opposes the deep state, the final assault of the children of darkness. For this reason, it is necessary that all people of good will be persuaded of the epical importance of the imminent election. Well, the election has come and gone, hasn't it? And look at the battle we're into now. Not so much for the sake of this or that political program, the Archbishop goes on to say, but because of the general inspiration of your action that best embodies in this particular historical concept, that world, our world, which they want to cancel by means of a lockdown. Your adversary is our adversary. It is the enemy of the human race. He who is a murderer from the beginning. And of course, he quotes that from John 8:44. Around you are gathered with faith and courage those who consider you the final garrison against the world dictatorship. The alternative is to vote for a person who is manipulated by the deep state, gravely compromised by scandals and corruption, who will do the United States what Jorge Mario Bergoglio is doing to the church. Prime Minister Conte to Italy and President Macron to France, Prime Minister Sanchez to Spain, and so on. Again, ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know, Jorge Mario Bergoglio is the Pope. That's his family given name. Saint Pope Francis. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll just skip over the next couple of paragraphs. Like I said, I didn't want to read the whole thing, but I wanted to read the most important, what I thought were the most important things of this letter, which highlighted and reinforced what I talked about in the first video. And the dates prove me that there's more at play here than just conspiracy theories. Again, when does a coincidence stop being a coincidence? There are just too many pieces of the puzzle coming together too quickly. And that's why I'm doing this video today so quickly after the last one. Back to the letter, and yet in the midst of this bleak picture, this apparently unstoppable advance of the invisible enemy, an element of hope emerges. The adversary does not know how to love, and it does not understand that it is not enough to assure a universal income or to cancel mortgages in order to subjugate the masses and convince them to be branded like cattle. This people, which for too long has endured the abuses of a hateful and tyrannical power, is rediscovering that it has a soul. You'd be surprised, there's more of us out there than you know. Everybody's just afraid to be canceled. You know, I was speaking to a good friend of mine the other day who sends me all kinds of information, and I am forever grateful, and you keep that up. I thank you for that. I know you know who you are. But you know what? He would love even to come on and chit chat with me about some of the things that I'm discussing with this, but he's afraid. He's a teacher and he's afraid of being canceled. He could lose his job for talking about this type of stuff in the open. Since when, in a country, in a democracy, in a free world that we supposedly live in, somebody is afraid to speak their mind? Ladies and gentlemen, that's how bad this is getting. In any case, back to the it is understanding that it is not willing to exchange its freedom for homogenization and cancellation of its identity. It is beginning to understand the value of familial and social ties, of the bonds of faith and culture that unite honest people. The Great Reset is destined to fail because those who planned it do not understand that there are still many people ready to take to the streets to defend their rights, to protect their loved ones, to give a future to their children and grandchildren. I sure hope so. I'll tell you, I sure don't see it. When I see people walking around, just listening and doing what they're being told without questions asked, it just scares the bejesus out of me. Mr. President, you are well aware that in this crucial hour, the United States of America is considered the defending wall against which the war declared by the advocates of globalism has been unleashed. Place your trust in the Lord. Strengthened by the words of the Apostle Paul, I can do all things in him who strengthens me. To be an instrument of divine providence is a great responsibility for which you will certainly receive all the graces of state that you need, since they are being firmly implored for you by the many people who support you with their prayers. God bless the United States of America. He goes on to sign it. Carlo Maria Vigano, titular Archbishop of Ulpania, former Apostolic Nuncio to the United States of America. You know, the Archbishop is saying that President Trump is the final garrison, the final wall to this great plan being implemented. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, we can all play a small part in assisting and keeping this from happening and coming. I don't know if we can be stopped, but maybe we can slow it down, all right? But that's why you got to subscribe. That's why you have to share this video. I don't care if you think I'm a kook. Tell your friends, I want you to watch this. Allow your friends, allow your family, allow people you know to make up their own minds. You'd be surprised. Maybe they may agree, maybe they won't. I don't care. But don't presume to know what somebody else wants to hear or doesn't want to hear. Now, just to get back on Trump here and what's happened with this election before I sign off, I want to leave it at this because this here, like I said, is so important, especially if you follow the timeline, reinforcing what I've already talked about and adding credibility to what I talked about in that very first video. And never mind debunking the masks and everything else. But seeing what's going on in the United States right now, and you know what, love him or hate him, I don't give a wahoo, all right? Trump is a fighter, all right? And from what I see now, this great reset, this plan was actually supposed to happen, or this isn't something that's just been thrown at us. This has been in the planning stages for a very, very, very long time. I believe that they were actually looking to implement this 4 years ago when Hillary Clinton lost the election against Donald J. Trump. They never saw Trump coming. They never expected Trump to win the election, all right? And because look what's happened for 4 years, all they've tried to do is discredit this man and find a way to get him out of office, all right? They have not succeeded. I hope they don't succeed now. I truly believe by the time this vote count is done, Trump is gonna end up on top, all right? But they never saw him coming. This plan they were looking to implement 4 years ago with Clinton in office, one of their stooges, just like Joe Biden would be a stooge, just like Justin Trudeau is a stooge, pandering to every other country he goes to out there, like dressing up in Indian garb when he went to India. You know, there's no backbone to these guys. Trump got in there, and what did he start to do? He started to expose the deep state. He started to slow them down. So they did everything in their power to get him out, from, you know, gaslighting him with his communist BS, you know. And even yesterday, I'm watching a press conference by Joe Biden, and he comes out like, people, the gaslighting, the ignorance, they play you for ignoramuses, all right? He comes out and says, it's not up to him or Trump to decide who the next president of the United States is going to be. It's the will of the people. Well, where was he 4 years ago? How come they've been trying to get the will of the people elected Donald Trump 4 years ago? Where was he? Where's the Democratic Party been trying to throw this guy out? Because there's a plan at place above Joe Biden, above politics. These are just their stooges. Okay, so this plan was meant to come into effect 4 years ago. Trump getting in the way, threw everything off kilter, all right? And now what happened? They never, ever expected Trump to have the type of following that he would have. So I believe that's why you see what's going on with these results. And that's why you see they had to force the timeline. They had to speed things up. They had to find a way to get this man out of office. Legally, illegally, cheating. And I believe that it came to where these votes, they had to do these mail-in votes. They had to find a way to get this man out of the White House. But you know what? Because they weren't expecting a guy like Trump, it's thrown all their plans off, and they had to come up with these plans really quick with these voting schemes. And for that reason, I don't believe it was planned properly. And that's why you're starting to see things where all these dead people have been caught voting. You're starting to see where I just heard there was one place in Georgia, I believe it was, 6,000 votes were counted for Joe Biden as opposed to Trump. Well, if they use the same software in 47 other counties, if that's the case, Trump's going to win Georgia. They weren't expecting that. They implemented this plan with these voting so quickly, it wasn't foolproof. I believe they're going to get caught. Trump is standing in their way. And you know what? Be careful, Mr. President, and anybody that stands in these people's way. There's powerful forces at work in here, folks. And you know what? Again, look at the timelines of this letter from the Archbishop. Do your own research. I think I've given you enough. You can do, there's all kinds of stuff on Archbishop Vigano out there. You can look up for yourself. Go back to my first broadcast on the isolation camps. And I think you start to get a different spin on the picture that you're trying to be sold. Thanks again for your time. And you know what? I wanted to come back with vaccines next and where we're headed based on but you know what? Things are moving so quickly. Who knows what we're going to be discussing, how soon, but I'm sure it's going to be sooner than later. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.